But for this week, I wanted to kind of run down my top 10 all-time Chicago sports villains. I wanted to use the word hate, but I know that there's more nuance now these days where people can't quite understand the varying levels of what sports hate means and what real life hate means. So I'm going to use villains. I'm going to use despised. And what is the criteria for this before we get into the top 10? These are teams or players that my entire life I have rooted against. There isn't a single day where I haven't rooted for this player or this team to lose. This team or this player also has been a thorn in Chicago sports side. They've had some successes against our teams, and it's driven me up a wall. And sometimes as a kid, drove me to tears. These are also players or teams that when it comes to fantasy sports, I'm not drafting a guy on this team. Winning in fantasy sports doesn't mean that much to me where I'm willing to take one of those guys on my team if it means that I even have to, for a small percentage, for a skosh, root for this said player or this said team on any given day. They will always be my foe. They will always be my villain. And I'm not moving off of it. If you're listening to this on WLS, you can hop on over to YouTube, check out our Sports Talk Chicago YouTube channel, and I would love to hear in the comments below who your all-time Chicago sports villains are. Cite some examples. Give me some games. Because this is my personal list. This is how I feel about it. This isn't the right or the wrong. This is just my personal top 10 Chicago sports all-time villain list. So let's kick it off right away with number 10. Number 10, I'm going the Minnesota Twins. Minnesota Twins. As long as I've been alive, especially in the 21st century, the Minnesota Twins always seem to be the team that does it right. The fundamental baseball. The guys that they grow from the minors. The dudes that can make those plays or come up with those big hits late in games and truly be the ire for the Chicago White Sox. In the 21st century, the Minnesota Twins, 9 NL Central titles, 10 playoff appearances. That is, of course, to the 5 appearances for the Chicago White Sox. In the year 2002 through 2004, I had just graduated high school. I'm in college. I'm living in my own apartment. I get to watch games whenever I want to. I even get a chance to go to an occasional game because my dad had season tickets at the time. The Twins win the division in 2002, 2003, 2004. Guess who finishes in second place every single one of those seasons? The Chicago White Sox. A great prerequisite for how to make this top 10 list is, for whatever reason, and I don't even care about the stats, I'm going straight off my memory on this one. It just seems like whenever the White Sox had to go to Minnesota to play a big series, they would always come up short. The bullpen would somehow blow a lead. There'd be some sort of defensive miscue or of some kind that would give the Minnesota Twins the edge. And then, of course, how else did they make them on the top 10 unless you put in a couple of players on there that are going to really make you mad? Guys like Torrey Hunter.
Line to right down the line, slicing but landing fair. Hunter gives chase, picks it up in the corner. Old trying for 2. The throw to second base is perfect, and the tag applied to get him.
There's a line drive base hit right field. Garcia's going to be waved around. Hunter's throw to the plate. Looks like it's on the mark, and he's going to be out at home.
Making plays in center field. Hitting bombs. Jacque Jones.
Usually when the batting average has gotten down just a few points above 300, he's taken off with 3 or 4 good games in a row. Deep to right field. The ball game is tied. Even to Jones with Minkiewicz at second. Blasted to center field. Jacque Jones has done it again.
Joe Mauer.
Deep to left. Cabrera backing up. That ball is gone. A home run. 24th hit for Mauer in 62 at-bats against Danks, but his first home run.
Justin Morneau.
And then you have an awkward collision at the plate.
1-2 pitch, high and deep to right. Guy moving back. His 100th career homer. Next one, high fly, deep center field. Owens running back to the track. He's at the fence, and this ball's gone.
Well, Morneau knew it.
Yes, he did. His 22nd home run. Here's the 0-1. Swinging a high fly ball to left. This is hit deep. Jack to the track. He's at the fence. 3-homer game for Morneau. A 2-run job here in the 7th with Mauer aboard.
Well, for a guy who was stuck on 99, he is trying to make up for lost time tonight.
Brad Radke.
Action enough to bring the Minnesota infield in as Carlos goes down on strikes. That is 13 in a row retired by Radke.
Those are just, I'm just naming a few guys here. And then, of course, the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox do have a little bit of history, which also happens to be one of my favorite White Sox memories. Is it cracking the top 5 when it comes to World Series memories? Probably not, but I have to talk about that wonderful blackout game when it was Nick Blackburn versus John Danks. Personally, I went to that game. Side story, personal note, that game was absolutely freezing. After the completion of that game, I was definitely sick for 2 weeks after that, and I will tell you, it was worth every single pitch. For those of you that don't remember, that was a pitcher's duel from the jump. I believe there was only 6 base runners were allowed through the first 4 innings. John Danks was absolutely incredible. John Danks was so good in that game that he actually somehow convinced the Chicago White Sox to give him a huge deal after that. The last huge pitching deal that was ever handed out by the Chicago White Sox. Ken Griffey Jr., that's right, Ken Griffey Jr. etches himself into White Sox history by throwing out a runner from center field.
And it's popped up. Short center field, and here is Griffey. Kadire tagging up, and he's going to go. Here comes the play at the plate. It's going to be close, and the runner is going to be out. And I don't think he touched home. Perzinski with a great block at the plate, and Griffey throws out Kadire at home, and the inning is over.
Jim Thome hits a huge, towering, monster home run in the bottom of the 7th to give them a 1-0 lead.
2-2. And in the air, deep to center field. Gomez going back, looking up. It's gone. Jim Thome with a home run.
And then a save by Bobby Jenks. Prayers up to Bobby Jenks right now and his family with what he's battling with health-wise. So there's been some battles, there's been some rivalries, and I tell you, every time I see the Minnesota Twins, I do not root for them, and they are number 10 on my list.